Hello, everyone. This is Steven with Axe Property Management. If you're watching this, it means that you are either already signed up with our management company or you are seriously thinking about hiring us as a property manager and you want to know about the next steps once you sign the management agreement. This little presentation is going to walk through what the next steps are, whether you have a property that's vacant or you currently have tenants and there's some issues with them, along with kind of some education on how to make sure that you are most successful as a landlord hiring a property management company. So, introduction: owning a rental property should be profitable, not stressful. So, our role is to remove uncertainty, reduce risk, and create consistency for property owners. This guide will explain exactly how management process works, what happens after onboarding, and how we manage your property day to day. This is not generic property management overview. This guide reflects how Axe Property Management operates. So, if you have other companies that you're speaking to, you want to take this and kind of ask them similar questions to make sure that you have the right fit. So what does Axe Property Management do? We'll handle everything from tenant placement and leasing, rent collection and financial tracking, maintenance coordination, tenant communication, compliance-focused property management, and owner reporting and transparency. Our model is based off of three stages: protection. So every decision prioritizes tenant quality, proper documentation, and legal and operating compliance. Consistency. So we want to rely on systems and not guessworks and standardized screening, defining workflows, and have simple paths to escalation, as well as transparency. So owners always have visibility through the owner portal, monthly statements, and clear communication that we'll talk about here shortly. So what happens after you sign the management agreement? Once you sign it, so some of you guys are in step one here, where the management agreement has been finalized. Some of you are in the document and property information step. So the first step is once we finalize the management agreement and we agree to the outlining of it based off of the scope of service, fee structure, and management responsibilities, we go into the property information documentation portion. Very important because we are going to be auditing your lease agreements to make sure they're compliant with current California state law. We're also going to be looking at property specifications, tenant information, and maintenance history. The more information that you can give us, the more protected you will be, because the more information that we will have to better assist you with your tenants. Once that happens, we will begin your owner AppFolio portal setup. So you'll receive access to Axe Property Management Owner Portal, where you can see things like financial statements, track rent payments, see maintenance activity, and access important documentation. The portal becomes like your central hub for everything relating to your property, where you can see control and when those tenants pay rent, when maintenance requests come in, and give us authorization for those maintenance requests. So property review and readiness. So before active management begins, we conduct a property review to confirm the rental price aligns with the market. If you guys currently have tenants in there, is this the time to do a rent increase and kind of discuss that? Property condition and maintenance baselines. We want to make sure that you're compliant with all like smoke detectors, fire alarms, that there's no habitability issues with the property currently, that the tenants are maintaining the property in the correct order. So all of those things are going to be part of the property review. If improvements or actions are needed, we communicate them clearly before we proceed. This is your property. We want to make sure that you have control over what happens with it. So you'll be making decisions every step of the way. For those who the property is vacant, we got three steps to that. The first is marketing. Once the property is rent ready, we list your property on the largest and most recognizable rental listing sites to maximize exposure. So you're talking about Redfin, Zillow, Hotpad, Trulia. It's over like 30 different websites that we list on. We highlight the ease of rent payment options, easy maintenance response, and dedicated property manager. So just like you have the product of the rental property, we are also selling them on the service that we have, the fast response that they receive. If you go look at our reviews, 80% of them are coming from tenants. We're really proud of that, because if tenants feel like we are giving a high level of service, they will stay longer, they are happier, and then by definition, you will be happy about it as well. Once we handle the marketing, we have dedicated screening. So this is where we will go through all the applications and verify their income, credit review, background checks, and rental history verification. We then pass along this information to you to make sure that you are informed about which applicant you choose to go with. Yes, we let you guys decide about who is chosen and making sure that you are fully informed prior to us making a decision on who goes into your property. Then we do lease preparation. So we create all the legal documents that are needed, all the disclosures. Maybe you have a pool, maybe you have the tenants have a pet addendum that needs to be placed. So legal documentation. Then we handle the tenant onboarding, including the utility transfer, making sure that first experience that they have with our management company and with your property is a positive. So rent ready, we touched on this a little bit. I want to talk about this a little bit more as well. So before listing your property, we strongly recommend ensuring that it is rent ready. Now, rent ready is a term that we use in property management and landlords use it because first impressions matter. And small improvements can significantly impact how quickly your property rents and for how much. It's always a question that we receive is, Steven, how much can I get for my rent for my property and how quickly can you rent it? There's two major factors: the price we list it for and the condition of the property. And so the first thing is making sure that your property is rent ready. So we have the best chance from the beginning to make sure that that property rents quickly and rents for the highest amount. So we want to make sure that the property is professionally cleaned, touch-up paint has been done where it's needed, and we address any obvious cosmetic issues. Now, this is something that we can handle for you. It is also something that you can, if you want to take on that project yourself, that is something that we can do as well. It's something that we'll kind of discuss during the onboarding, but these are some of the things that will help you become successful renting your property quickly. The better condition at listing, the stronger the rental demand and the higher the rents we can support. Now, this is something that I discuss with owners all the time, and that's why I want to bring up this scenario. Why listing your rental property appropriately is so critical. Choosing the right listing price is one of the most important decisions in the leasing process. While higher rents may seem more attractive, extended vacancies can quickly reduce total annual income. Vacancies is one of the largest hidden expenses associated with rental properties. So here we have two scenarios, and they happen every single week, every single month at our company. We allow our landlords to choose what you list your property for, but I always want to educate and make sure that you are aware of these two different types of scenarios and how it can impact your overall rent that you can receive year over year. So option one is we listed for $4,500. The annual rent, if fully occupied, is $54,000. The daily rent value would be $147.95. However, because it's listed $300 more than option B, all things being considered, it takes 50 days to rent this property, meaning the loss of rent is $7,397. Annual income is $46,603. Base, and then we can go to option two, and I'll kind of go through these numbers quickly. Renting it for $4,200, so $300 less, will in fact allow us to get a lower vacancy. So instead of 50 days, we can go down to 12 days. That way, our loss of rent goes down to $1,657 per the year, bring our annual rent collection at $48,743. So the amount that someone makes, although it is lower on a month-to-month basis, and I know as a landlord myself, we think I have a mortgage to pay, I have utilities, we got to make sure we get in as much as we can. We can't forget about those phantom costs like vacancies. And so when we're talking to you about what we should list the property for, again, we will never tell you you have to list it for this price, but I want to make sure you're educated and informed from the very beginning to make sure that you understand that vacancy is a true cost on your rental property. So hopefully this helps. Key takeaways to here: at a lower rent that attracts the right tenant faster often results in higher total income. Axe Property Management focuses on market-driven pricing strategies designed to minimize vacancy while protecting long-term tenants. And this kind of makes sense, right? Not only will you be getting a tenant at this price point faster because it's a little bit more affordable, you're probably gonna get a better tenant, right? If you have someone who has an 800 credit score and both of these properties are identical, the person who has an 800 credit score is going to go with the property that's more affordable because that's its natural progression of real estate, right? So versus someone who would go with the 4,500 because it's been listed for so long, probably doesn't have as good credit score, probably has more pets, probably has some issues that he is not qualifying for those other properties that are slightly lower listing price. Now, for those who already have tenants, this one's for you, transitioning on an existing tenant. So if the property is already occupied, we formally introduce ourselves as Axe Property Management to the tenants, update payment instructions, transition communication to our team, and review the lease for compliance and clarity, kind of like we were talking before. To ensure this is a smooth handoff without disruption, there's a few things we want to talk about. It's kind of hidden right here, but one of those is for your protection. We strongly recommend that you send a text email to the tenants that you are no longer the primary contact for the rental property. We'll kind of discuss it in these next slides, but just kind of as a caveat, we've had a lot of issues, and a lot of management companies have issues with landlords continuing to have communication with tenants. What that can cause in the future, and I'll give some stories of this, is lack of clarity, lack of confusion, and it will open you up to a lot of liability that you didn't even realize you can have simply from sending a text once every couple of months. Now, as a landlord myself, this was kind of hard for me to understand at the beginning, but I get it. I'm a landlord myself. I want to control my rental property, and I want to make sure, as your property management company, we give you as much control as you would like of your rental property. I will never take that away from you. As long as we do, and I always repeat myself, as long as it's legal and ethical, we will support you in those decisions. However, I want to educate and inform our owners from the beginning. The more owner control that you ask for, the more liability you will be taking on. Okay, so I just want to clear this up and make sure we start from the beginning. So, why centralized management matters? When owners remain directly involved in tenant communication after management begins, it can unintentionally create confusion with the tenant and risk. Axe Property Management is structured to protect owners by keeping communication, decisions, and documentation centralized. So, all of our calls are being recorded with the tenant. All of our text messages are being transcribed and being held in a tenant database. All of our emails are the same way. We do that because if there is something that happens, we are documenting the truth, we know the law, and we're following the appropriate rules. It's a big thing with Axe Property Management. Now, when there is a tenant who is speaking to an owner, there's going to be some information that we are not aware of, which increases your risk. Or sometimes owners are like, I want to handle my own maintenance. No problem. You want that control. I want you to understand from the beginning, you're also taking on that liability. We have no problem with you doing that. But again, it's increasing your liability the more control that you have. The more control you give to the property management company, and we are just able to be giving you that information, but you're not controlling that. We are just informing you, the less liability you have, because we are then being effectively your management company. We are making those decisions, and so you're not responsible for those outcomes. All right. So here's how it works. Owner control, clear visibility through the owner portal, right? This is what we want to see. Professional handling of tenant communication, documented decisions, and consistent processing, and reduce involvement in day-to-day issues. That's why you're hiring us. You're hiring a company to ensure that we are handling those processes. So make sure when you hire the company, you allow them to do that. Owners maintain oversight without needing to manage directly. Owner liability, conflicting instructions given to tenants, right? The tenants are saying one thing to you versus what we're saying to you. It happens all the time when we onboard a property. They'll look at us like the bad cop. They'll try putting you against us. So making sure that all the communication goes directly to us so you're not confused about where it's going is important. Missed and undocumented communication, increased exposure to disputes and misunderstandings, and blurred responsibilities between owner and management. Direct involvement after onboarding can unintentionally increase risk. So key takeaway, by allowing Axe Property Management to manage tenant communications and operations, owners retain control while significantly reducing your liability. That is the biggest pro of hiring a management company, in our opinion. You guys can collect rent. It doesn't take a genius to do that. You guys can handle maintenance. It's not hard to do that. But by allowing a third party to handle all the communication, if something happens, you can sit there and say, my hands are clean. This was Axe Property Management. And that's what we want you guys to do. Quick story. We had a owner who just about 4 months ago was given a lawsuit. It was a habitability claim issue. And they called us. They were furious at us. They said, Steven, I got this habitability claim. She's saying that there's roaches. Why didn't you tell us about this? Now, we knew nothing about what she is talking about here. So we reached out to the law firm that's representing the tenant, and they said, Well, Stephen, the tenant informs the landlord because they had the tenant and the landlord actually met during a showing of the property. It's also why we typically like to handle the showings ourselves. This landlord decided to show the property to the tenant. They exchanged communication. We informed the owner, just like we're informing you guys right now, do not communicate with the tenant. Let them know that all communication needs to go through Axe Property Management. They disregarded that information. Again, this is your property, it's your decision. And about 3 months into the lease agreement, the tenant really quickly messaged the owner and said, "Hey, I have some cockroaches. What do I do?" The owner, not really thinking, busy with the holidays, said something quickly like, "Okay, just set up some traps, and let it be." Well, that didn't go well with the tenant. We were never informed about the maintenance request. And long story short, not only did the tenant break the lease early with no issues, it cost this landlord roughly $10,000 because the tenant sued for pain and suffering because of the issue. This could have been all easily avoided by not having each other's contact information and being clear about where the communication goes. So I'm here to protect you. This is kind of our warning, and like, don't be another horror story like this. Now, rent collection and financial management. This is the second question we always receive. So Axe Property Management handles rent collection according to the lease terms. So tenants in our lease agreements, tenants pay through an approved payment channel. Payments are tracked and recorded. Rent is due on the 1st and considered late after the 5th. This is a very standardized process for rentals. Most of you guys who are landlords understand this. Late payments are handled according to policy. We charge a late fee of $200. That late fee is not income for Axe Property Management. What we do with that money is we actually go out and send a third-party process server to send a 3-day notice and post it on their door, which allows us to begin the eviction process. So we have to take things seriously. We can't just pocket the $200. Owners ask us like, "Hey, can I have the $200? We can't use it for that in California. We have to use it for ordinary and reasonable expenses due to the late rent. Owner's disbursement. Owners receive clear monthly statements on the 10th of each month. So you'll receive that both in your portal and via email. Itemized income and expenses, and timely disbursement based off the agreed schedule. Once rent is received, the timing of the owner payout depends on the payment method and banking process. And we'll talk about that here in detail. So when do we send the rent? Number one question once we get the property rented is, when do we receive the rent? So unless the management agreement states otherwise, which currently it is February 5th, 2026, we have no other management company that say anything else. We use same day ACH for owner disbursement. This means the rent leaves our account on the same day we initiate the transfer. So the second that rent gets deposited in our account, we send it over to you. Not a day later, not a day earlier. Now, how rent is generally received is rent transfers are initiated between the 5th and the 10th of every month, assuming the tenant pays on time. There is a 5-day grace period that applies. If we receive the tenant late, we'll continue those efforts on your behalf until we get the rent payment, and we'll communicate with you the second we find out that the tenant paid late. So in a perfect scenario, the tenant pays the rent on the 1st or earlier. It takes roughly 3 to 5 business days for us to receive that rent in our account. This has to do with the banking system itself, has nothing to do with us. We use Chase Bank, which is the largest banking institution in the world. All bank transfers take 3 to 5 business days. So I have a lot of questions about this. And the second that gets transferred, so for example, in February, right now we're in February of 2026. It is the 5th, which is a Thursday. Tenants who paid on the 1st, we've received a lot of those disbursements. And so it has hit our account on the 5th, and we are sending out those rent checks as we speak right now. There are other tenants who pay on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those will take still another 3 to 5 business days for us to receive it, meaning some of the owners this month, we will not send the rent until maybe the 7th, 8th, or even 9th. Now, we do same day ACH transactions, but as it says here, your bank can possibly hold the bank transfer just like the bank transfer from the tenant to our management company for up to 3 to 5 days. How to prevent this and how to make sure that you receive your rent a little bit sooner, especially if it's your first time receiving the rent, is ensuring you reach out to your bank themselves. And I've noticed credit unions are a little bit slower at this than larger institutions. Reach out to them, let them know that you have a property management company, that you will be receiving this sum of money, and that you want this to be known as like a reasonable and ordinary income that you'll receive. Sometimes I can cut down a day or two of your amount. But again, we will send you an email the second we transfer those funds, so you know it's going to be sent to you. Once we've sent that email, it is out of our bank account. It is now up to your bank account how long it wants to take to receive those funds. So like it says here, once funds are sent, the timing of availability depends on your bank. Some banks post ACH deposits immediately, while some may hold it for 3 to 5 business days. So again, there's like Martin Luther King Jr. Day or something like that. Banks have the best holidays. I feel like the best schedule in the world. So they're off like half the year anyway. So make sure that you're counting the business days, not just regular ordinary days, including weekends. And then reaching out to your bank and contacting them on what the standard hold time is for incoming ACH payments. Can the hold be reduced or removed? And can deposit limits be increased to avoid delays? Those are things you can do, and reach out to your personal bank to cut down on that time. Next, we're going to talk about maintenance, renewal, repair. So maintenance is handled systematically to protect the property and control costs. So tenants submit a maintenance request, issue is reviewed and categorized. Maintenance request is troubleshooted with the tenant. If the troubleshooting was unsuccessful when applied, then we reach out to an approved vendor. Are assigned, repairs are tracked and documented, and we will reach out to you regarding any maintenance request that is not self-resolved through troubleshooting. So how this works is tenants respond to us and reach out to us about a maintenance request. We review the issue and make sure it's an actual request that is something that is the responsibility of the landlord and not just the tenant, depending on your lease agreement. And then if it is the responsibility of the landlord, or if it even is the tenant, we'll try troubleshooting that issue with that tenant. Maybe it's a clogged toilet, maybe it's a hot water heater that needs to be reset. A lot of the times we've noticed like 30 to 40% of maintenance requests are actually self-resolved by troubleshooting. If in fact it cannot be self-resolved, we reach out to you immediately. It doesn't matter if it's a small maintenance request or a big maintenance request. And we simply ask, do you have your own preferred vendor? Do you have someone you'd like to work with? And then you'll let us know about who you'd like to work with. I will say our maintenance coordinators like to work with things quickly. So if you do notice that we reach out to you immediately, we would appreciate if you guys can respond back. Customer service is super important with these tenants. So we want to make sure that we handle these quickly so that your tenants stay happy, so they stay longer. So owners can view maintenance activity through the portal, which is something we'll go over shortly. We can focus on preventative maintenance, cost awareness, and proper documentation, like I said, to reduce your liability. Communication and issue management. So Axe Property Management acts as the primary point of contact for tenants. This means we handle tenant questions, concerns, we handle issue resolution, and we can escalate only when owner input is required, right? You're informed, but you're not burdened is our big key right here. All right. Communication guidelines and response time. So clear communication helps us respond faster and manage issues more effectively. Axe Property Management follows structured communication guidelines to ensure that nothing is missed and urgent matters are handled promptly. We are very, very proud of how quickly we can communicate with landlords. I know sometimes things feel like an emergency and, you guys, everyone wants a response that minute. Well, I can nearly guarantee you, doing this for so many years, we will respond to you same day. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend, if it's a holiday, Christmas, whatever it is, we will respond to you same day. So know that our best communication is texting or email at support@axepropertymanagement.com, or you can text us at 714-844-5620. That allows us to handle and kind of triage those calls and those messages that we receive. But like I said, we try to respond to you within the hour. Definitely for emergencies, you will get a response within the hour if something's going on. But for non-emergencies, we just hope that you can understand that we will respond within the same business day. Emergencies. What is considered emergency communication? So emergencies are situations involving immediate danger to life, health, and significant property damages. So active flooding, fire and smoke in the house, gas leaks, and immediate life hazards. Emergency messages are prioritized in response to within the hour whenever possible. We want to set these to make sure that they're structured in setting boundaries and protect the team, clearly inform the owners of expectations, right? It's also with maintenance. I'm sure you guys are all aware, if there is a maintenance request that has to do with like a flood or a fire, your expectation of us is that we respond to these and we mitigate the issue immediately. Doesn't mean that we're going to do a full-scale remodel, but if there's a large slab leak or something like that, at the very least, you're expecting our team or whoever you hire to stop and prevent secondary damage, which is the responsibility of us as property management and what your insurance would require from you. Reporting and transparency. Monthly owners receive consistent reporting, including monthly financial statements, maintenance summaries, and transaction records. Everything is documented and accessible through the owner portal. Which brings us to the last two slides, the owner AppFolio portal. How to use it. The portal allows you to review recent rent activities, track expenses, access documents, and monitor maintenance. This ensures that allows you to have visibility without needing to chase for updates. As a landlord myself, I've hired and fired 3 different management companies. I wish the management companies I chose had this software, which is AppFolio, because it is very powerful. It's really nice to see and really, really good to understand on how to use it. So that's something that we will show you guys in the next video on how to use it. And we'll kind of walk through line by line of how to use it properly. All right. So what does success look like? I know we had a lot of talking here. A successfully managed property is stable income, reduced tenant issues, clear documentation, and minimal owner involvement. This is the standard that Axe Property Management aims to maintain. And this is why I've created this video. I want to start from the beginning and explain not what we do, but also why we do what we're doing. We're here to protect you. We're here to ensure that you have a seamless onboarding and transition, and that you understand that you will be informed and educated every step of the way. This is your property. You make the ultimate decision, but at the same time, the more decisions that you make, the more liability you will be taking on. So when you're deciding to take on more of that responsibility, just understand I'm taking on more liability. So we view Axe Property Management as a long-term partnership with you, not a transaction. Our responsibility is to protect your investment, manage your risk, and create consistency and keep you informed. So whether you've signed the management agreement already, I say thank you. If not yet, hopefully this kind of helps you understand us better and take that next step. Looking forward to speaking to you guys on a personal level, and have a wonderful day.